Resume best practices and leveraging your experiences. So, today we're going to talk about best practices, the resume template we use here at GPS, what Impact First framework means, and how to leverage your experiences. You'll be able to find the template we'll be using throughout our few years here at GPS in the resource library under resume template. So, Impact First framework. What this is really the story of your experiences. And we want to frame your experiences in a way so employers can see the impact that you can bring to their organization. So let's talk about what counts as experience: work history, volunteering, special training, professional development, of course, any publications that you've done, some social media content writing. Experience doesn't expire. So we may have to dig into many years past to pull out experiences that are going to be relevant for the employer. When we think about our resume, we also want to think about that. What I like to say is impact first. So we want to structure our bullet points in our experiences in a way that employers can understand the what, the how, and the when. So you want to lead with that impact, and that's the what, right? What was the context of the accomplishment? Like, what was it, that problem you were trying to solve? Um, and then you can follow up with the how, right? How did you address it? What did you do? And then if context is needed, then you can talk about the where and the when. So oftentimes I see on resumes very much, just a reverse way to have a bullet point is directly from a job description. And we don't want to say that we were responsible for, etc. And so we really want to start with what you actually did, not necessarily the job description, but what you actually accomplished when you were there. That's going to get more eyeballs on your resume. That's going to get more employers asking questions. And that's exactly what we need to be seen and to stand out from the crowd. Okay. Numbers are really important, right? Made, saved, achieved. If you can quantify or qualify, that's really helpful. But ideally, what we want is we want hiring managers to see that if they are bringing you on board, you're going to make a big difference in their organization. You can make an impact in their organization from your previous experience and then the way that you tell that story. And the idea here, again, is you've got to stand out. It's a very competitive market, and we want to make sure your resume is telling the right story. So, what does that look like? Here's a great example, right? If you were doing some event management, maybe you did that for an internship, or you volunteered and were helping out with events and logistics. This could be a really great way to show how you were able to make an impact in that particular role. So the impact, the method, the context. You can see here, increasing program attendance by redesigning the registration process over, 12 quarterly workshops with 200 plus healthcare professionals. So what's really important isn't the 200 plus healthcare professionals, and oftentimes we get stuck on that first. What's important is what problem did we solve, and what was the impact that it made, right? And so we solved the registration process, which was really making sure that we had a better attendance to these events. Okay, here's another great example. A data analysis, a data analyst. These are all similar positions that you might be able to talk about, especially if you're having to use some of your classwork to bring forward because you're going to be doing a lot of analysis in your first year. So this is another great way to lead with the impact, talk about how, and then giving it some context. Again, we often get tripped up on the 150 plus active participants, but when we're analyzing data, let's be real, that's not a lot. So we want to talk about the program completion rates of 23%. That's important, right? And being able to track that system or creating dashboards, very relevant. Now I know how you did it and how I'm going to be able to see the impact that you made or the impact of the data analysis. Okay, let's talk about artificial intelligence. Should I use AI to write my bullet points? This gets asked all the time, and the answer is maybe. Maybe you do need help. But I will tell you, lots and lots and lots of applicant tracking systems already have AI in them. They have AI identifiers built into the software. Most resumes will start to look so template and that it's very hard to tell if you used AI or if you didn't use AI. What ends up happening is recruiters and hiring managers will toss a lot of the AI resumes out. So be really careful if you're going to be using AI to write your bullet points, because if we start to look at how formulaic AI can be, it's going to be identified and you're going to be eliminated. So be very careful, even if English isn't your first language, even if some of the bigger words may make a mundane task and remedial task sound amazing, it is not going to help you. It will hurt you. So think about using AI very sparingly and decide, if I couldn't say this out loud confidently because this isn't my natural speaking language, then I should not be putting it on my resume. So that's a good test. Say it out loud. Is it a mouthful of big words? And would I say this word for word in an interview, and does it sound natural? Just my 2 cents. Okay, some other helpful hints. These are things that kind of come up every year. Reverse chronological order. So you want that oldest job at the bottom of your resume, then the latest and greatest job at the beginning of your resume. We can, play around with experiences because we may want to bring an experience closer to the reader, so up higher on the resume. But it gets a little tricky with dates, and we definitely want to have the dates in reverse chronological order. And then we also want to make sure that we're listing each one of our bullet points in those jobs with in an order of importance or relevance. So thinking about how somebody might be reading your resume, they might not be looking at every single bullet point. So we want to make sure the one we want them to see within each experience is on top, and the what's in the middle probably won't get read as much. Quantifying, qualifying, those are all really important things. And then making sure that we're talking about we're highlighting all of our achievements and thinking about, like, how can we make, save, achieve, thinking about how we can quantify or qualify, but also really making sure that what we're highlighting is relevant to the end user, right? So is relevant to the end user, and the end reader, that is. So we want to make sure that we are modifying each one of our resumes per job or per company that we are applying to, because every company has a very different and unique way to talk about how they're solving problems. And we want to make sure that the highlights that we're showing on our resume are relevant to what that employer might need to solve for. All right, here's some other best practices I think can be really helpful. Making sure that you have all those action verbs in it's a highlighted link. There's lots of great action verbs out there. You'll find that in the resource library. Making sure your font is 11 to 12. I usually stick to 11, to be honest, and I usually stick to 0.7 on my margins. That is pretty standard. And then we're going to use Quincia. And so Quincia is an AI platform that's going to look at our resume and give us some hints and tips on how we can get it in the best shape it could possibly be in before you meet with one of the coaches to put a stamp on it that says, yes, it's ready to go. So Quincia is going to give us lots of great suggestions, specifically about your bullet points and whether or not they have, if we've qualified or quantified things. And then a lot of times people ask, do we put a GPA on? Do we not put a GPA on? I do think that some cultures and countries would like to see your GPA. Mostly here in the US, we do not look at your GPA on your resume. Your education should be in reverse chronological order. So you should be putting GPS on your resume now, including which program that you are in. And then you also want to make sure that you are spelling out your program completely. And then on the header, make sure email, phone, city, and LinkedIn. We do not put our address anymore. We just put our email, phone, city, and you can put zip code, but I don't like to put the physical address. What else? If we don't have a lot of experience, there's lots of ways you can get experience. And I will tell you, experience doesn't expire. You can use experience from your classrooms, from projects, definitely your capstone next year, clubs, organizations, volunteering. You can create a club. You can find opportunities within the community here on campus and then off campus. Lots of opportunities to create volunteering. So I'll give you an example. On my resume, I spent about 5.5 years with a nonprofit called Phase 2 Careers, doing a lot of career coaching, a lot of programming. I sat on the board in various positions, but most importantly, I did lots of master classes and workshops, and one of their big signature programs every year. And it was a lot of work. So I put that under my work experience. I also am part of Surfrider Foundation, and one of the programs that I support is the beach cleanup. And so picking up trash once a month on the beach, I put under my volunteering experience. But this other bigger connection is something that I put definitely under experience because it's a lot of work. So you may want to look at some of your volunteering and think about what your contribution was to that nonprofit or that organization and decide where you want that to show up on your resume. And lastly, we are here to help you. So it's really important that you know we're here to support you. We're here to review your resumes, your cover letters, help you with any of your applications. We want to be able to provide you all of the resources, support, and connections that you might need throughout your time here. If you are planning on applying to consulting companies, they have a very different hiring schedule than other private sector or public sector organizations. And you may want to talk with one of your career coaches about those times when to apply. Oftentimes it's a lot earlier than in the spring. So most companies are going to be hiring toward the spring. Oftentimes consulting companies are starting now in the summer. The other thing that we're going to do is really help you connect with lots of alum and who are gracious enough to donate their time to help us either with internships, informational interviews, career connections, career conversations. Amazing, amazing, amazing alum are here to support you, and we will help connect those dots. And then the last thing is we have lots of resources for you. So really helping you through, drafting kind of those best versions of your experience to get your resume in really good shape. Use Quincia, use the resource library, use the coaches. If you feel like you need extra writing assistance, UC San Diego does have a writing hub, and there's a link on this as well as in the resource library. But just know we're here to support you. We're here to help. We're here to help guide you in the right direction, make the connections, make sure that all of your deliverables are ready, or what we call a kind of a dossier, are all ready to go, so that when you are ready to send in those applications or talk with employers or create networking referral opportunities, you will be ready. And lastly, I do think it's really important, always making sure that you are keeping a comprehensive version of your resume. So really, really, really updating it as much as possible. It is your time to humble brag, right? You should be proud of all of your skills and achievements. So don't downplay them. Definitely use the GPS format. We do send out a resume book to all of our alum/employers. So we want there to be consistency across all of the documents. So we will make sure that you are all using the GPS format while you are here for the next 2 years. And then the other tip has been from alumni has been save your coursework for your portfolio. So oftentimes you're going to get employers who are going to want a writing sample, or you just are forgetting where you want to pull experience from. It's really great to have some kind of portfolio, whether that's on a Google Drive or whether you have another fancier tool where you're keeping it. I do think it's really important that you keep that portfolio up to date, or at least keep it all together in one area that you can find very easily. That's it. Thank you.